Ma'am, why are you rushing through this premise?
I'm sorry, officer. I know you're doing your job, but I have a patient to save in the next 45 minutes. That's why.
What's your occupation?
I'm a doctor.
Please, ma'am, can we see your ID?
This is my ID, officer. Is there anything else?
You'll have to wait for some minutes here.
Officer, this is crazy. Do you understand we're talking about someone's life?
Wow.
I was supposed to be on that plane. I was supposed to hold his hand before they turned off the machine.
Ma'am, please,
Dr.
let's talk.
Amara Najiri had always believed that time saved lives. At 33, she was already one of the most respected trauma surgeons at a private hospital in Los Angeles. Born in Nairobi and raised partly in California, she carried two identities with pride: Kenyan by blood, American by citizenship. Her colleagues admired her calm hands in the operating room. Patients trusted her voice because it carried certainty, even in the face of death. Subscribe to this channel, drop a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell, as the next story is what you wouldn't want to miss. On a quiet Tuesday morning, time became the one thing she could not control, and someone else paid the price for it. The call came at 4:12 a.m. Amara was half awake when her phone vibrated on the bedside table. Surgeons learned early in their careers that night calls rarely brought good news. She reached for the phone and answered. Dr. Najiri speaking. On the other side was Dr. Harris from Chicago General Hospital. Amara, I need you in Chicago as soon as possible. It's about your mother-in-law. Amara sat up immediately. My mother-in-law? What happened? Ruptured abdominal aneurysm. She's stable for now, but barely. We don't have a surgeon experienced enough for the repair she needs. Your name came up immediately. Amara's chest tightened. Her mother-in-law, Eleanor Mitchell, was 55, a strong woman who had welcomed Amara into the family when she married her husband Daniel 5 years earlier. She doesn't have much time, Dr. Harris continued. We estimate maybe 6 hours before things become irreversible. Amara was already getting out of bed. I'll be on the first flight. By 5:30 a.m., Amara had packed a small bag, grabbed her medical files, and rushed toward Los Angeles International Airport. Daniel had stayed behind in Chicago with his mother overnight. His voice sounded strained when she called him from the car. Amara, thank God. The doctors say they're holding her stable. I'm on my way, she said firmly. Just keep her calm. How long until you get here? Flight leaves at 7:05. I'll land by 11:30 your time. Daniel exhaled. Good. She keeps asking for you. I'll be there. Neither of them knew how wrong that promise would become. The airport was already buzzing with early morning travelers. Amara moved quickly through the terminal, her hospital ID hanging from her neck, passport and boarding pass ready in her hand. She reached security with 30 minutes to spare. Normally that would have been enough, but this time it wasn't. As she stepped forward in line, two uniformed airport police officers suddenly approached. Ma'am, step aside, please. Amara looked confused. Is something wrong? One of the officers, a tall white man with a hard expression, looked at her passport. Routine check. Amara nodded calmly. All right, but my flight is boarding soon. I'm actually a surgeon heading to an emergency operation. The second officer barely looked at her. Step aside. Something in his tone felt cold. Still, Amara cooperated. She had nothing to hide. They led her to a small security room. Place your bag on the table. She did. Is there a problem? She asked again. The first officer glanced at her passport. Kenyan origin. I'm an American citizen. We'll determine that. Amara frowned. My passport literally says United States citizen. The officer ignored her. Open the bag. She complied. Inside were medical textbooks, surgical gloves, and a tablet with patient files. Why are you traveling to Chicago? The officer asked. I already told you, emergency surgery. Who's the patient? My mother-in-law. The officers exchanged a look that felt strangely skeptical. How convenient, one muttered. Amara's patience began to thin. Look, I understand you're doing your job, but someone could die if I miss this flight. The officer leaned back in his chair. We decide when you leave. Minutes passed, then more. Amara checked the time repeatedly. 6:35 a.m., 6:40 a.m. Her heart started beating faster. My flight boards in 15 minutes. Relax. I cannot relax, she said sharply. A patient's life depends on me. The second officer finally spoke again. We received a report of suspicious travel documentation. Amara stared at him in disbelief. That's impossible. People say that all the time. Her voice hardened. You are detaining a licensed American surgeon with no evidence. The officer shrugged. Then you have nothing to worry about. 6:55 a.m. Boarding had started. Amara stood up. I need to go. The officer immediately stepped in front of her. Sit down. Her phone buzzed. Daniel. She answered instantly. Amara, they're prepping her now. The doctors say we need you within the hour. Her throat tightened. I'm being held by airport security. What? I don't know why. They won't explain. Daniel's voice turned urgent. Tell them it's life or death. Amara turned to the officers. You hear that? My patient is about to die. The tall officer remained expressionless. Sit down. Her flight began boarding its final group. 7:02 a.m. Her heart pounded violently. This is ridiculous, she said, standing again. You're obstructing medical emergency travel. The officer placed a hand on his belt. Sit down before we escalate this. Amara's hands trembled with frustration. She sat. 7:05 a.m. Her plane departed without her. The silence in the room felt suffocating. 30 minutes later, a supervisor entered. He reviewed her documents for barely 2 minutes. Then he looked at the officers with irritation. She's clear. Let her go. Amara stared at him. That's it? Yes, ma'am. Your officers detained me for over 40 minutes. He shrugged casually. Miscommunication. Amara's chest felt hollow. My flight is gone. You can rebook. She looked at him as if he had just said something insane. My patient is dying. The supervisor said nothing. Amara ran through the terminal, desperately trying to find another flight. The next available departure was 2 hours away. Too late. Her phone rang again. Daniel. Her hands shook as she answered. His voice broke immediately. Amara? She's gone. Everything inside her collapsed. What? The aneurysm ruptured. They tried to operate, but it was too late. Amara felt her legs weaken. When? 45 minutes ago. 45 minutes. Exactly the amount of time she had been detained. The airport noise faded around her. Tears streamed silently down her face. I'm so sorry, Daniel whispered. Amara could barely speak. If I had made the flight, I could have saved her. Daniel said nothing, because they both knew it was true. The grief slowly turned into something else. Anger. Cold, controlled anger. 2 months later, Dr. Amara Njeri filed a federal lawsuit. Her legal team presented everything. Security footage, boarding times, medical records, testimony from Chicago surgeons confirming that her arrival within that window would likely have saved Eleanor Mitchell's life. The most devastating evidence came from the airport supervisor himself. Under oath, he admitted there had been no real security threat. The officers had simply decided to investigate her further. The jury listened carefully. They saw the footage of Amara pleading to make her flight. They heard Daniel's testimony about his mother's final moments. They saw the 45-minute gap, and they saw the truth. The verdict came 6 weeks later. The airport authority and the 2 officers were found liable for wrongful detention, civil rights violations, and negligence leading to preventable death. The compensation awarded was enormous, $52 million. But when reporters asked Dr. Amara Njeri how she felt about the victory, she gave a quiet answer. No amount of money brings back the 45 minutes they stole. She paused before adding softly, and no one should ever lose a life because of prejudice disguised as authority. Time saves lives, but sometimes the people meant to protect it become the ones who destroy it, and 45 minutes can change everything.